Hi guys, welcome to another interesting episode of Gist with Essay. Yeah, today we're going to be talking a lot about children, okay, and advocating for kids. If you're joining us on YouTube, thank you for joining. Please share. You know how we do it here. Share so your friends and your family can join and be a part of the conversation. And if you would like to be a part of the show, if you would like to come on screen, please let me know in the comment section and then I'll send you the link so you can be a part of the show. Otherwise, please drop your comments or your questions for our guest and she'll attend to all your questions as the show is going on. So before we get deep into the show, please, you already know what the topic is. We're talking about child advocacy, the rescue mission, and it's basically addressing the issue of child abuse in the society. Okay, so if you've got any questions or any concerns or anything that you would like us to talk about while the show is on, please drop it in the comment section and we'll be really glad to attend to you. Hello, Oyemi. Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you. So, our guest today is Adetutu Ajibodu. She's the CEO of this Cheche Yara Foundation. For some reason, I always call it Sisi, but it's Cheche Yara Foundation in Nigeria, and they help children, you know, deal with all the traumas and everything that comes with being abused as a child. All right. Adetutu is an advocate for sexual and gender-based violence, child rights, women and youth empowerment, and is passionate about her work in the social development space. She has a background in business administration and education, an MBA and certification in project management, gender equality, as well as sexual and gender-based violence prevention. And she's here today to talk to us about her foundation and about the work that they do at the Cheche Yara Foundation. I'm going to add our guest on now. Hello. Hi. Good to have you on the show.
Hi, Esse. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Can
you
you
for
hear
gracing
me?
us with your. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for gracing us with your
Awesome.
presence. Yes. So, before we get started, let's get to know you a little bit. Who is
Okay.
Adetutu Ajibode? Ajibodu.
Um, Ajibodu. Yes, that's fine.
Ajibodu.
All right. So you already know my name. I am the CEO, currently CEO at Cheche Yara Foundation. Cheche Yara is Hausa, by the way. It
Okay.
means save the child.
Oh,
That's what it means. Yes, a lot of
okay,
people call
good.
it CCR, which is okay
Yeah.
as well, as long as you know what the foundation is called. All right, so this is what Ajibodu. I have been in the social development space for quite a long time. I am passionate about the work that I do. I love to work with children. I am from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm an adventurous person. I'm trying not to say too
Mm.
much of, since you already talked about my educational background. I'm an adventurous person. I have gone skydiving before.
Oh,
so
wow. I should put that on my bucket
so
list.
you should put it on your bucket list. So yeah, I'm a fun person outside of the seriousness of work. Um, I'm not married yet, no children yet, and that is me.
Wow. Great, great, great. So what got you interested in working with children?
So I have a background in education, and I first of all I love children, and I have a background in education, and so I can't escape or I couldn't escape working with children. It's my
Mhm,
happy place. So I've
mhm,
in the past been the head of school, so I've had to work with little children, children in nursery, children in preschool, children in secondary school, and yeah, it's the love for children, and here I am advocating for kids. So it's been a journey.
Okay. Is there a particular experience that got you involved in advocacy?
Um, hmm. Well, I'll just say it's not a particular experience. I would say it's just the love for children, basically.
Okay.
It's a love for children. And you know how it is that your journey is not yours, it's God's. I found myself here,
Mhm.
but of course, He
Yeah,
put me
okay.
in the right place because of the love I have for children. Yeah.
Mhm.
And of
Okay,
course, the
good.
love I have for humanity.
Great. Okay, I can see you guys joining in. If you're joining us on, oh, we're actually broadcasting on Twitter for the first time today, live on Twitter. So
Oh,
please drop in the comment section. Let's
okay.
see. Tell us where you're joining us from. Are you on Twitter or are you on YouTube? Okay, I can see you, Chris Kachika, on YouTube. Don't forget to comment. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? I keep wondering, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe now, right now. Just hit the subscribe button, okay? Yeah, so tell us a bit about the foundation.
Okay, so TTR Foundation was established in 2016 by a phenomenal woman, Bola Tinubu. Um, what drove her to establishing the organization is the alarming statistics at the time, the growing rate of abuse in Nigeria. The statistics as at then was 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys would have experienced sexual abuse before they turn 18, and only 3.5% and 1.5%. 3.5% of girls and 1.5% of boys would get the help that they need. So this was, I mean, appalling to her, and she thought, what's happening in Nigeria? One other thing that got her to start the foundation was she grew up in the UK, and there was this. She mentioned a telephone line for to report child abuse that was always on the radio, was always on TV, and was ingrained in children's head to call for help when they needed it. And she started to look into Nigeria. What's happening in Nigeria? Do we have such a helpline in Nigeria? So it started off with the helpline. Where can children call? How can they reach out for help when they're in trouble? So this the helpline started, and then as time went on, there was a need to create new services. So if they call the helpline, what happened? What then happens? Is there somewhere to refer them to when they've been abused? Is there somewhere they can get help when they need help? So as time went on, there's a need for medical service, there's a need for psychosocial service, there's a need for legal service, and then today there's a long list of services that we provide at the TTR Foundation.
Wow. Okay, so she had to work with the Lagos state government to make that phone line available.
Yes, but also
Or
with
is that
Child
line specifically
International.
for your foundation?
The line is for the foundation, but it was authorized by International Child Helpline. So
Oh,
she got
okay.
authorization from International Helpline. It's a toll-free line where you can call without charges.
Oh, great. That's a good one for Nigerians to actually hear. That they will not be charged to call
Absolutely.
that line. Yeah. Okay,
Absolutely.
you said your founder has, background in the UK and all of that, but let me shock you. It's not only in Nigeria that we
No,
have
it's
these
not.
issues with, Yeah, so I was listening to the news yesterday, and even in the UK, we have 63,136 reported cases of abuse, right? Reported
Child
cases.
abuse? Wow.
No, general,
General, okay.
abuse. And sadly,
Okay.
only 5,139 of those cases have been prosecuted out of 63,000. So you can imagine it's alarming,
It is.
across the globe.
It is. And that is
And
a fraction. That is a number of people that have reported. Some people wouldn't
that
even report at all.
some have never reported.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you wonder, because everyone all over the globe, they're all about, the children are the future, education, this, that, and but you're not doing the things, or you're not attending to some of the issues that are required to help these children actually attain what it is to become leaders of the future. Because if these kids, in their minds, abuse goes beyond the physical, it also affects the mind. Yeah, so it's
Yes,
alarming that they're not
absolutely.
doing enough. I would say they're not doing enough, because they will say that they're doing, yeah, but it's not enough. And it's really sad.
It is sad. But what I use and what I tell, my team is, when you look back from where we're coming from, especially in Nigeria, we have gone a long way in
Okay.
talking about sexual and gender-based violence. I mean, in the awareness of it. I know it's a long way from home. I know it's still a long way to go, but I'm still happy at the stride that we've made so far. I would chip that in. So it's not that we're not doing anything, but we've started taking the step towards making it a better, society for all.
Okay, so Oyemi says, let me just take your question, Oyemi. If they are not reported, how do they get those numbers? Well, the numbers are from the people who actually have
Who have
reported.
reported, yes.
Yeah, and the stigma thing is also a global issue. It's not just an African or a Nigerian issue. All right, there are places here in the Western world where people are told not to talk about that experience because they don't want, that stigma. So you can have parents even telling their child, don't talk about it. Let's not
It's just
report it.
worse in some places. It's worse in some places than others. The stigma of shame, blaming, not believing. I know it's everywhere. It's just worse in some countries than others.
Countries than others, yeah. So in your experience with working with abused children, of course, you've met with some parents and all of that. What are some of the challenges that you have encountered, both with the children and the parents?
Yeah, so we already mentioned stigmatization and intimidation. A lot of time, people don't want to be shamed. No, people don't want to be tagged. Oh, she was raped. People don't want to be tagged. Oh, she was the one that reported someone. Or people don't want to be tagged. She was the one that put him behind bars. So it's the shame, it's the stigma, it's the being wary of what will people say. Don't tarnish the family name. All of those are the challenges those are the things that people think of before they go through they think of all of that and they're thinking, the process of reporting also. Do I want to take the child through all of this stress to get justice? What's the end result for the child? They're not really looking at the trauma for the child. So some of the challenges are a case is reported and maybe it's a neighbor. A neighbor could be that uncle or that neighbor that they've known for years, where his family is begging and saying, oh no, please don't spoil his life and all of that. So challenges like that, cases are withdrawn when they might have started the process of reporting, they might have started the process of getting justice, and they are withdrawn just because there's so much begging. Sometimes there's financial exchange for the trauma that has been caused. Sometimes in cases of the perpetrator being the parent, it's possible, there are times where the father is the perpetrator. Now, the mother is afraid to report because if I report, what happens to the children? What happens to finances? What happens to the support that we get? What happens to the shelter that we have? So these are the challenges that we face. I mean, we've had cases whereby a case has been reported and and we've gone a few steps forward and then the whole steps backwards, like it never happened. So yeah, I think it's just the stigma, the culture. What will people say? Don't let them hear. Don't talk about it. Majorly.
Okay, well, that's what I don't understand with parents or guardians and this whole mentality of finances and stigma. That child will always carry that stigma, whether it's exposed or it's not. That child is living with it, the trauma every day. And for some people, it's a lifelong thing that they have to deal with. Okay.
Absolutely.
And because they can't express themselves to their parents, then they are dying in silence, one. And then number two, apart from that, they're also having issues with the challenges of looking for ways to deal with it or to cope. And then they end up with harmful coping mechanisms.
Yes.
Right. And for me, that's the first thing I would think about. I would not want a situation where this child will have to resort to something like drugs or alcohol or, whatever else, sexual immorality.
I feel like a lot of people don't know the impact of what the impact of the what the trauma causes on a child, a lot of, especially what poverty can cause. You talked about the funds. The parents that is trying to provide for the family, something like this happens. When you think about a country like Nigeria, and you're thinking, oh, okay, I need to get justice for my child. When you're thinking of the process of getting justice, first of all, some people don't even know where to get the help. When they get the help, it depends on where they get the help. They might have to spend money to get the help that they want.
Okay.
They might have to bribe one or two people to get the help that they want. And they're, thinking of the processes. Maybe they're already in the process and they're exhausted. And then the perpetrator is saying, you know what, let me give you 1 million to just, so let's, shut this off. Let me give you, they'll jump on it.
Yeah, I know that there was a case like that on social media.
Yeah, they'll jump on it because they don't know the impact. They don't know the trauma they've caused that child, maybe for the rest of her life. She might not even get help. And if she gets help, will she get healed?
So another issue with the bribe, when the perpetrator bribes, the parents or the guardians of these children, my issue with that is that a lot of times they don't even use this money now to say, okay, we're not going to prosecute this case. We're not going to, but let me use this to at least get this child help, like counseling, and stuff like that. They just bury the issue, like sweep it under the carpet. And this child is left alone to deal with the fallback, whatever it is, whatever negative. And then the parents are quick to forget. I don't know if it's that they're quick to forget or they're in denial. When this child starts to, pull tantrums and, do all these, get involved in all these negative vices and all that, it's like they don't remember that there must be a reason, or this has to be related or linked to the trauma that the child has suffered, And so have you had cases like that where you've had parents who came back to you and said, okay, we don't want to go further with the court case or with prosecuting this person? What did they do, or what did you advise them to do?
No, you can't force anyone to do anything, sincerely. We need consent to, move ahead. We need the caregivers buy-in. The child is a minor. There's not much we can, get from the child. The parents have to give their consent. And if they're not giving their consent, all we can do is, run through the list of consequences of, what might happen to the child. And, it's up to them to decide if they want to go ahead or not. But in cases where, one of the amazing things about child abuse is, as soon as the government hears about it, they will ensure that child does not go back to the abuser. If there's a mandatory reporting in Lagos State. You need to report every child abuse case, and if the abuser is at home, that child is not going back home. So that child is reinstated in a shelter like ours. Checheyara Foundation has a shelter. There are different shelters in Lagos, and those shelters have their different time limits as to how long a child can stay, or how long, what it is that shelter is focusing on. So the government is in charge of moving the child from one shelter to another until a time where there is a non-offending family member that child can be handed over to.
Wow. Okay, that's really impressive, because I was thinking, what's the role of the government in all of this? But you just answered that. Let's take a question from Susan Falola. She says, if you are a parent, what would you advise Detutu will be signs to look for, and how can you educate children before such things happen? Great question.
So the signs to look for, first of all, we always preach. We have at Chechera, like I said, we have lots of gaps. We saw lots of gaps and created different services. One of the services we provide is the Safe Kids Awareness Program, where we go into schools to educate children of their rights. We educate children on body boundaries. We educate children on, how to know, how to say no, how to know there's an unsafe touch, things like that, just educating them on how to keep themselves safe. There's also another program that we run, which is called Adult Awareness Program, whereby we're talking to parents of schools, maybe organizations that call us in to talk about child protection. basically. But as a parent, what I would ask you, what I would advise that you look out for is, first of all, have a relationship with your child. Have a relationship whereby as soon as your child starts saying, no, I'm not going to this person's house, or today I'm not going to school, try and find out why that child is not going to school. Find out why that child is saying no. Look for the little signs. Maybe Chioma is happy to go to uncle whoever's house or auntie Ndudi's house, and Chioma suddenly starts saying, no, I'm not going anymore. Obviously, there's a reason why that child is saying no. Believe that child when that child, no, it's okay. Believe that child when that child says something has happened. Maybe someone touched my hand, and it might sound like it touched my hand. It might be an inappropriate touch. So first of all, believe your child, have a relationship with that child. It makes it easier for you to know when there's something wrong. So those are the little, they might seem seemingly little, but those are little signs you need to look for. As soon as that child starts saying, daddy touched me. There was a case that I would never forget. It's in my head, and it sometimes these cases don't leave. An amazing, vibrant 4-year-old girl who her dad had been abusing for a very long time. Now her mom was pregnant and just had a baby. So of course I think she had complications while she was pregnant. So she was still healing from, having the baby and all that. So daddy was meant to bath for the little girl. So daddy had been bathing for her, and she kept saying, daddy touched my bum bum. Mommy, daddy touched my bum bum. I mean, those things, yeah, daddy would touch your bum bum, which is what she was telling her. Daddy touch your bum. He's bathing for you. He'll have to wash your bum bum. He would have to clean your bum bum. But she kept repeating, daddy touched my. She when she was reporting this case, she was crying and she was beating herself up that why didn't she pay attention? Daddy touched my, but daddy touched my bum bum, and it was so bad that she, at some point, the girl said it so much that she said, okay, she reluctantly put on her audio on her phone overnight to prove nothing. That's what she thought. In the morning when she woke up, she heard the sounds she didn't believe could ever be. Her dad had been abusing her for such a long time that it had become almost, the girl was muffled, she was crying. It wasn't, if it was new to the child, she probably would scream, but she was muffled, she couldn't, she wasn't crying out. So if she had, it's hard. Even talking about it, heartbreaking.
I know my heart is breaking, like right here. Like I
was married to a psycho. He wasn't just abusing her; he was putting objects in her. That's how bad. So it hurt her so bad that she didn't have that relationship with her child to believe her enough to say, "Daddy touched me." How did daddy touch you? So these are questions that you need to ask. You need to be in their business. You need to talk to them like they're your friends. So yeah, I hope I was able to answer the question.
Yes, you were able to answer it. There's a follow-up question to that, but wow, how do you help such a child? And what I was going to ask you before I take Titi Layo's question was, when I hear things like that, right? I just wrote a book on my own personal experiences as a child growing up, all right? But there are some cases that I hear that are way worse than what I experienced. And I just shut down. For someone like me, it just brings triggers, right? And then I keep asking, there are just so many questions you keep asking that are never answered. How do you sleep when you hear such? Because I go for days and the image is so vivid in my head that when I shut my eyes to sleep at night, it's there. Yeah. And so I have to distract myself some way. How do you cope? Because you've been doing this thing for years and you've been hearing all sorts of stories. How do you cope? Doesn't it affect your mental health as someone who's trying to help?
It does. It does. In as much as it is easy to talk about now, I have had first of all, a good organization would have a therapist for their employers that do work as the kind of work that we do. Okay. So I have worked in organizations where, there's always a therapist, not just for the children or the survivors, but also for the staff. Despite that, like I said, I can count a number of cases that are still in my head that I, play over and over. There's always a time to shut down. There's always a time to shut down. You need to know when it has gotten to this point and you need to shut down. I have shut down for a year before. I shut down. I was still in the space. I was, consulting, but I shut down because I needed to just, refresh. But you know what keeps us moving? People that are in this space, such as me, is, the fulfillment of helping others, knowing that there's a child out there that is being abused. We would go all out to rescue a child that we hear is being abused next door. So that alone, just knowing that we are being able to help rescue a child, we are being able to remove a child from an abusive place, that alone will keep us going. But there's always a time to shut down. There's always a time to see a therapist and talk about it.
Okay, great. We're going to take a break in a minute, but let me take Titilayo's question. She says, does moving the child around different shelters affect the child? Before you answer that from your experience with working with children, Titilayo, I'd like to also share about that. Moving the child around. I had to move around a lot, not because anybody discovered that, I had that experience, but just unfortunately, I had to move from one family member to the other. So for me, in my own experience, moving around did not affect me negatively as long as where I was moving to was better than where I was coming from. Okay, so if I'm going to an environment where I'm not experiencing the same things, then I'm happy there. All right. And over time, I just learned to count my blessings. I didn't like moving around. I would have preferred to be with my family, but my family couldn't be there for me. So unfortunately, I had to. So for me, in my own personal experience, as long as where I was going to was better than, where I was coming from, having all those negative experiences, I was okay. But J2, to tell us about your experience with children, having to move around from shelter to shelter.
I absolutely think it's a very good question, which is also a common question, because there's a time meant for all the shelters. Now, one unique thing we do at Chechera is we don't just move the child on. We prepare the child to move on. We prepare the child to move on to the next shelter, or to that foster home, or to that non-offending caregiver. We prepare that child. Now, before we move a child to the shelter, the child knows where she's going. The child understands. The child understands that you're in a shelter. It's not permanent. You're not. Yes, we make it feel like home. The shelter is home to all the children. They can always come back. They can always reach out. Our phone number is engraved in their head. They sing it all the time. 0800 800 801. They know that they can come back to us. They know where they're going. And they first of all see this next shelter before they go. Now, it's not, oh, okay, Titi, you're leaving today to the next shelter and we're taking you there and you're staying there on that day. No, you're going to the shelter. You have an idea of where you're going. You have a look around, stay there a few hours, and then come back to your current shelter, which is Chechera. Think about it. Are you ready to go? They take time to think about it. When they are ready to go, we give them a week, 2 weeks. When they're ready to go, we take them to the next shelter and we let them know that you can always come back home. And we don't just leave them there. We follow up on their performances, on how their growth. Do they like it there? If they don't like it there, they're coming back. So it's not, in as much as it looks like, they're moving from one place to another. No, we don't just yank them off and decide to put them in another shelter. There's always a reason for moving, and they know why. They know the reason for that movement. So yeah, that's
okay. So the shelters you're talking about, are they still like foundations that are helping people, or they're like foster homes where because when they stay with you for a while, you want to place them like in a home, right?
Yes.
So are we talking about foster homes or other shelters for maybe for a different age group or something?
Because there are different situations for different children. It depends on what's going on with the child. It depends. Is the abuser at home? Is that why we took the child away? That means the next step is we're looking for a family member that can take care of the child. Is the child going to be away from home for a long time? Does this child need education while the child is waiting that we find her that home that she can be? Does she need skill acquisition? Does she need, is she moving on to, it depends on, it's different for each child. So it's not, it's not the same structure for every child. So we are moving from A to B to C. No, we can move a child from A to Z, depending on what that child needs. So that's how it works.
Okay, let's take a quick break. And then we'll be right back.
My people, una sabi say dem dey sexually abuse 1 out of 4 girl pikin and 1 out of 10 boy pikin for Naija. If we no help our pikin, this matter go affect them and go cause physical and emotional wahala for their life. Now, why I won't tell you about Cheche Yara Child Helpline? This one means hope for our Naija pikin. Plus, it go give them opportunity to get help, care, information, and emergency intervention without any shaking money. So whether you be pikin or adult self, you fit to call the Child Helpline on top 080-8001 to get help onto any form of abuse, and this one are free of charge. You fit if you download the new Cheche Yara interactive app on top of your app store to get more information about child protection services. Follow any of our counselors yarn. All you guys do now to call their free of charge child helpline on top 080-0800-8001. Their services they free. Together we fit to do up, and we go build a society with the free of a child.
Okay, welcome back, guys. Yeah, I needed you guys to see that so you can have an idea of what the foundation is about and, the number that you need to call if you need to, report a case, of abuse. And like I always say, it's very important. This job is not for it's not one person, I have my foundation. That's another foundation. There are so many foundations and agencies out there that are willing to help people. So before I go on to my next question, Detutu, are you with us?
Yes, please, I'm here.
Okay, so I'll take some comments and see if you've got any more questions, and then we'll go on. So Oyemi says, my personal experience, I was too scared to speak up immediately because I was scared my auntie will blame me for it. It took me over a year to speak out. That's another issue that we have when the victims blame themselves.
May I ask Oyemi if she's okay now, if she getting help? And also, before I forget, there was a lady that spoke about asking the question about how parents can help. How parents know when abuse occurs. If she would like to join, we're having a webinar for parents. If she would like to join the webinar to, get ideas and learn more on how to know what a case of abuse is like when it occurs in a child, we'll be happy to have her. She can call our helpline and ask for details.
Okay, do you have a flyer out or something about the webinar?
That's going to come. It's going to be on our social media platform soon.
Okay, so when I see it, I'm gonna pass it. I'll pass it out. So yes, because I think it's important
people can follow us as well.
Yeah. Okay, so you can follow the foundation at Cheche Yara Cheche_Yara. Yeah. I'll try and put that in the comment section. Yeah. Babati says having a relationship with your child is key. Yes, that's very, very important. And then Oyemi says those children who you take into your shelter, how long are they allowed to stay? Do you send them back after a while?
We do not send them back. We send them to like I said, it depends on the situation of the child. Our time to have a child in the shelter is 3 months, but that's if we're able to reinstate that child in the right place before the 3 months elapses. We still have children that have been with us. We have a child that's been with us for about 3 years now because the mother, there's nowhere to put that child. There's no safe caregiver or non-offending family that we can put the child in. So the child is still with us. He's got scholarship to go to school thanks to our donors and people that have reached out. So he's got a scholarship. He's 3 years old now. He's doing great.
3 years old.
So it depends. Yes, he's 3.
So he was abused as an
He
infant.
was no, his mom was a victim of trafficking
Oh, wow.
and baby factory. So there's been some complication. We can't return the government can't have the child reinstated with the mother. So it depends.
Wow.
It depends. We can't. It's not 3 months and we yank you. We just take the child out. It depends on, they can stay longer if they have to. We never kick a child out, and we never take the child back to the abuser.
Okay, yeah. Titi Lyle says, great job, day 22. Susan says, thank you for all the work you do, and your organization are doing great. Day 22. Linda Ofodili says, heartbreaking story about the 4-year-old abused by dad, and these things happen a lot. Some discover early, others probably never. It's a process like that. Elizabeth Alamu says, how established is fostering in Nigeria? In light of the lack of records in Nigeria, how is it ensured that the caregivers are suitable? That's a very interesting question. Would you like to take that?
Yeah, so there's something called home tracing that we do. We do not, now if we give a child back to a caregiver or a seemingly non-offending caregiver, we're not just leaving that child with that caregiver. We're following up and we're watching. We're in collaboration with the police. We're in collaboration with Ministry of Youth and Social Development. We're in collaboration with Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team of Lagos State. We work together. We trace homes just to be sure that child is doing okay where they are. So it's not just dumping the child there. We can't know everybody's mind. We don't know if they're good or bad. But from what we've seen, this family member seems like a non-offending family member. We give the child to that family member, but we're on your neck. We're checking on you. We're checking on the child. We're communicating with that child. We're going to the child's school to find out what's going on, just to be sure that child is okay.
Wow, that's great. Okay, Titi Lara says, please, can you repeat how to access the helplines? I didn't get all the information. Yeah, so I'm going to put up on the screen I think the flyer that has the information on the helpline, the line that you can call. Yeah, so that's the line that you can call.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty
and then
easy.
you can also follow them. Yeah, you can also follow the foundation at Chichi_Yara.
That's CECE_YARA.
Yeah, I'm just going to try and pop that in the comment section. But while we're doing that, let's take the next question. The Healing Whisper says, well done for the great work, ladies. Question, do fathers have any role in educating their daughters about sexual abuse? Is it safe for a woman to try to team up with her husband to help educate their daughter? I really love that question. Day22, can you?
Yes, I'm here. I'm trying to read the question again.
Okay.
Do fathers have any role in educating their daughters about sexual abuse? Yes, absolutely. Mothers, fathers, yes, absolutely. The only thing I would preach, and we always preach, is yes, daddy is daddy, but please listen to a child when a child tells you daddy did something wrong or daddy touched me inappropriately. Daddy, mommy, we're a team. Daddy and mommy we're a team. And I mean, it's our role to educate our child. I mean, there's some single dads out there. It's their role to educate their child. So yes, but please believe your child. If your child says, oh, I am uncomfortable, I got touched on inappropriately, I feel like daddy is, whatever if the information is, believe that child first and investigate it.
Great. This just brings this question to my head. When we talk about child abuse and stuff like that, usually, the higher percentage is that men are the ones who, perpetrate the act. But have you ever had a situation where the mother was the one doing it, or where it was a female who actually, perpetrated the act on the child?
Well, I can't really point at a particular one, but yes, there are instances where it's the other way around. There are instances where boys are being abused by their nannies, boys are being abused by a female. I can't point at a particular one where the mother was the one abusing the child, but yeah, it
Okay.
happens that way as well. It's both ways. And yes, male children too get abused as often.
So the work that you, sorry, yeah, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I
Okay,
just said what I wanted to say.
okay. The work that you do, does it involve also helping people, um grown people now who were victims when they were kids? Do you also help them? Do
Mhm.
they reach out to you for help in counseling or dealing with their traumas?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, children are our direct beneficiaries, but hey, children are the ones that have also um, grown into the adults that are still going through that trauma. In as much as our focus is on children, we can't rule out the role of a caregiver. We can't rule out the role of a mother. We can't rule out of, the role of someone who's been abused as a child and is still going through that trauma. Absolutely. We have trained therapists that would run you through your healing process, run you through your healing journey. So yeah, that absolutely. We go as far as having programs for I mean, if there's a case of abuse for a child, we also have therapy sessions for the parents to help them, because they've also been traumatized. That's the truth. They've also
True.
been traumatized, and also um, it's also a way of teaching them how to help the child.
The
So
child. Brilliant.
we're helping them get out of the trauma, and we're helping them help the child, because of course the child spends majority of the time with them, not us. So
Great.
yes,
So I've got
absolutely.
two very crucial questions to ask you. Yeah. Well, the first one is, okay. So maybe let's take it this one first. Have you had a case where the victims return to their abusers?
Victims, or well, not always, a lot of times victims return to their abusers, especially women. Women, a lot of the time is the situation is their financial instability, insecurity, shelter. Where would I be? What would I do? How do I take care of myself? And that's the reason why we have programs such as soft skill initiatives where we
Training. Yeah.
train women to learn to empower them financially, where they can stand by themselves. Yeah, so yes, victims go back to their abusers, but for children it's a bit different, because when we hear it's a child, that child has to first of all has to be taken out from the abuser, and then we know which step to take. But first, that child has to leave.
Great. So what are some of the methods that your foundation has used in helping victims to heal from the traumas of abuse and the stigma of abuse, apart from counseling? We know counseling is essential, and that's the first
Mm-hmm.
thing that you need to do. But what other ways? What other things
Mm-hmm.
what do you do to help the children besides that?
Mm-hmm. We have, apart from this, moral support, welfare services. So, for example, if a child was abused in school, we reinstate the child into another school, make sure the process is done where the child leaves the school to another school. Soft skill development, depending on the age of the child,
Okay.
medical support. So recently, we added a medical services to our service, because, like I said, as time went on, we started seeing the need for more services to be added on. Yes, toll-free helpline, then what? Then medical, then what? Legal aid, then what? So we started adding. So recently, we added on medical services, which will be launching on the 27th of May.
Okay.
So what we have at the moment is a one-stop shop where we don't have a child that comes into that facility and we're saying you need to go and tell your story. That child comes into the
Okay.
facility, gets medical aid, gets legal aid, gets psychosocial counseling. One other amazing thing that we've added to the services we render is forensic interview, where you're able to gather evidence of an event a child has experienced or witnessed in a way that it is friendly, not scary, whereby anatomical detailed dolls are used to, extract evidence from that child. It helps so that the evidence is not watered down. We get concrete evidence from that child, because when the child is moving from one place to another, uncle Amidi is saying, "Don't be, if you tell, you're in trouble." The mother is saying, "If you tell, hey, your life will spoil." But that child is in a space where he's comfortable. The child is in a place where they feel safe to tell the truth. So those are the services that we render apart from the psychosocial counseling. One thing that I'm hoping that people will understand more is that counseling is very important. A lot of Nigerians don't know the impact of it. They feel like it's just all talk, but really it's not. It's a process. So that's one of the challenges we're also facing. Like, what? You're just talking. Why are we, having to come back to come and talk every time? So, yeah. So those are the services that we render.
Yeah, like I always say, we can't stop talking. We have to keep talking. We have to keep sensitizing people. We have to keep, creating awareness. People need to know more. We need to look for avenues to let parents, and even people who aren't parents, okay, know what they can do to help, how they can see the signs, note the signs. And let me quickly add, sometimes the child doesn't always necessarily withdraw. Okay, time is fast spent, but in my book I wrote about grooming, and grooming is a whole different process. So a child who is groomed, most times they are not withdrawn. You can have a child who is being abused, but the child is happy. So you see your child is all of a sudden always happy around a particular person, or is always excited about one thing or the other. It's new. Your child is usually reserved and calm, and all of a sudden, as a parent, you'll be happy to see that, oh, my child is now more joyful and all of that. But sometimes
it's also
that
something,
can be, yeah.
That might be a red flag as well. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to me. That's the experience that I had. So being around a particular, but where do we draw the line, really? Because if we keep going through all of these things, it's like people are going to go paranoid. Like, where do we draw the line? If the child is withdrawn,
I think it's just creating a safe space for your child. Create a safe space for your child, whereby we need to stop the whole shut up. We need to stop the whole, was I talking to you? Adults are talking. We need to stop the whole child can't talk about vagina and penis. We need to start talking. We need to start speaking to them. Like, create a safe space where they know that if I tell mommy, if I tell daddy, I'm safe. I'm going to be fine no matter what it is. Even if it's as small as, oh, you spoilt this thing and you couldn't tell me that, have a relationship whereby even if I tell mommy I spoilt it, there's a way she's going to handle it that I'll feel safe and I know she loves me still. That's what it starts from, little things like that. Talk about movies, talk about the little things, talk about hair, talk about everything. So it's just creating that safe space where they're able to tell you anything. You will see
putting the child under undue pressure.
It's not, I'm afraid to tell you because I feel like you will blame me. I'm afraid to tell you because I feel like you won't believe me or you will beat me or, things like that. Create a safe space. Let them be your friends. That's how my mother raised me. Luckily for me, I'm able to tell her anything. And if we have that relationship with our children, believe me, they'll tell you, they will come to you.
Any and everything. And it's important to understand your child and how they also communicate. With my 3-year-old, we realized that when something happens, she may not want to talk about it immediately. And so when we ask what happened and she's not willing, my dad and her dad and I would just tell ourselves, okay, leave her, she'll still come back and talk about it. When we've forgotten about it, maybe the next day or a few hours later, she will come by herself and tell us exactly how it went down, what happened. So we understand that. So we don't put her under pressure that you must tell us now. It has to be now that I want to hear it, and stuff like that.
That's you understanding your child. Yeah. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's key. So talk to us, how can, on the last note, okay, we're rounding up now. The foundation is doing great. I'm so impressed when someone actually brought the foundation to my notice because of my book. I'd come to Nigeria to promote my book and do a sensitization exercise across secondary schools, and someone sent me the handle and said, I think you can work with these people. Unfortunately, it came late when I was just about leaving. and all that.
Okay.
So, but I've gone through your profile, I've read up on you, and I know that the work that you guys are doing is great. I'm really impressed because I believe in
Thank
catching
you.
them young, and that's exactly what you guys are doing. I believe strongly that the young people's minds need to be reorientated. So if you've experienced something like that, we have to re-educate, we have to reorientate, we have to be sensitized. Do you understand? Because they've been broken, they've been what they believed previously before that experience has been shattered. Their belief about life, about safe space, about adults and relationships, that has been shattered. So you have to rebuild, okay? And the best way to do it is when they are still young. So how can people support you? Whether voluntarily, financially, and otherwise. Just tell us in what ways you seek support from people.
So many ways. We're very big on having volunteers. We can't employ the most professional people to do the work for us. Volunteering is a big part of what we look out for. Funding. We need money to keep the lights up, to keep the lights on rather. Funding. No matter, I mean, it's not. It doesn't have it. No matter how small it is. We're currently having an initiative, April being the month of international prevention of child abuse. We have an initiative where we're saying give to a rescued child. Now people can, donate clothes, can donate food, can donate. We have someone who gives us bread every week. Some people bring clothes, some people bring food, some people send money to our account. It's in different ways. It could also be capacity development. If there are trainings that we might need, whoever is a professional in an area, maybe administration, social work. We'll be happy to take the help as much as we can. But most importantly, fundings are a big part of keeping the lights on, not just for the survivors, also for the those of us that work at the foundation. So you can help in any way. All you need to do is call the helpline. You can send us a DM on social media. You can help in the smallest way that you can. So yeah, that's how.
Okay, so on that note, we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much, Detutu, for joining us today to educate us on the work that you do and the importance of, everyone pitching in, no matter how small, no matter how, where you are, what you do, in your own little way, you can pitch in. All right, so thank you everyone for joining, everyone on YouTube and Twitter. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to read this last statement and then we'll call it a day. Titilayo says we're in that circle where we understand we can say anything without fear of judgment. We just start by saying, Mom, I want to talk to you in a safe circle. Okay, so that's having conversations with your children.
Yes. You can have your code word and say, Mommy, can we be in the circle now? My sister does that with her child. Yes.
Oh,
that's beautiful.
That's great. I think I like
beautiful.
that. That's a good thing
Mommy,
to
can
adopt.
we be in our safe section? Can we be in our safe circle now? Can we be in our safe bubble now? So she knows that, okay, she wants to say something serious. That's beautiful. I like that, Titilayo. Thank you for chipping that in.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you, Titilayo. And so on that note, we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for joining us, Detutu. And thank you everyone who has joined us, who has contributed, who has commented. Please, reach out to the foundation, Cheche_Yara. If you check on my page, all the information is there. How you can get to them on Instagram is there. I've tagged them as well and all that, so you can easily reach them. And until next time on Gist with Esse, don't forget to subscribe, okay? And don't forget that it's important that you keep yourself happy, you keep yourself safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.